Welcome to the Backdoor Fantasy Sports Podcast with Russo and Jordy.
What's up, guys? It's August 19th, Monday, and we're 16 days away from the NFL season starting. And so we're very excited to get into fantasy football. And today we've got a lot of season-long prize picks plays for the NFL season because we're doing things different this year. Last year we collaborated on a 6-man slip. And I don't know, you want to tell them what happened, Jordy?
Yeah, I mean, everyone almost died that we took. Like, I think we took 6 players between us, and I think 5 of them had season-ending injuries and just like drama stuff. So it was bad.
Yeah. So this year we're doing like competition style. We got a little personal bet between us, and I made a 6-man slip. Jordy made a 6-man slip. We didn't build them out together. We kind of took our time, and so yeah, we're going to have both of our slips linked in the description if you want to tail these. And we're going to break down each pick. So if you want to just build your own out of this, we actually didn't end up taking the same picks. So there's 12 individual picks on here for you to choose from. So yeah, we're going to talk just a little bit of news, and then we're going to get right into these plays.
Let's do it.
So the main news of the day, which hasn't been that exciting, but we do see Gardner Minshew locked in the starting job in LA, or not LA, Las Vegas. Yeah, you know, it's like Devontae wanted O'Connell apparently, which is, I think Devontae just wants out, and so he's easily agitated right now.
I feel like the only reason he wanted AOC was just because he was going to force feed him the ball. You know, he probably had something going with him where it's like, hey, you know, we got this connection. It's a lot like the Mike Evans and was it Fitzgerald? What was his last name? Fitzmagic, yeah. Yeah. So it's like, you know, these guys get their quarterbacks who they get a connection with and they don't want to see him. But if it's better for the team, it makes sense.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, look at Michael Pittman last year. I think Gardner's going to go crazy with Adams. I think he's going to heavily target him. Yeah. So I think it's better news for Adams personally, and Brock Bowers and any of the pass catchers. And yeah, we were talking about it earlier, like Gardner Minshew. He might not be like the best quarterback in the league, but he brings an energy that it's hard to find. You know, he gets the team hyped, and so I'm happy about it. If I was the Adams owner, I would be stoked. I would rather have Gardner. And if Gardner doesn't get the job done, they'll just go to AOC. So we also got, you know, haven't really made any ground with CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk. A little bit more clarity. There was an offer to CeeDee Lamb, $33 million a year. He turned that down.
Both my starting receivers in the Dynasty League, both dealing with contract stuff. It's not fun. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, you can go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as a Cowboys fan, this CD stuff is just frustrating. I think, you know, Jerry just needs to get the checkbook out. He's just wanting $35 million. They offered him 33, and he's like not moving off that 35. Just give him the extra $6-8 million for the next 4 years. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Jerry's just playing hardball. He's trying to act like he doesn't care. He did the same thing with Zeke, and then he gave him $90 million, and that was like one of the worst contracts ever. So yeah, I don't know.
Ruined the RB landscape for contracts. Yeah. That was the nail in the coffin. It's
I love how at that time all the running backs got in like this secret Zoom call, and then Zeke just gets this monster contract, and then they're all like, okay, we need to sign deals right now because he just ruined it.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. If we wouldn't have had all this drama and Jerry Jones would have, at the beginning of the offseason, said, CD, we love you. We know you're an important part of this team. We want to get you locked in. We want to give you $33 million a year. Like, do you think the deal would have been done?
Probably.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like CD's just like, I'm not a fan of these hardball situations, you know, where it's like, clearly probably the best receiver in the league, and I just don't think that the negative energy brought into the situation is worth saving $2 million a year.
It is interesting though, because what they did offer him before training camp, like before any of the drama, they offered him like 32 and he declined that. So maybe not.
Okay, yeah.
So I mean, maybe he is just hard stuck on being the highest paid. I know that's just what he's set on, so he wants to be the number one paid guy. But
yeah, which I guess $33 million a year would make him that. But
yeah, he just wants 35, I guess.
Well, pay the man.
Yeah, come on.
Just get this done. But anyways, and then we got Brandon Ayuk, situation looking more and more like he's just going to stay in San Francisco.
Thank God.
Yeah. Best case scenario.
Arthur Smith anywhere near that guy.
Right. And then we, speaking of the Steelers, we apparently still don't know who the starting quarterback is out there.
That's weird.
Which, in a situation where Brandon Ayuk did go to the Steelers, if I, you're the owner, but I would rather have, that's what I'd rather have Russell Wilson. So I don't know. I'm sure they'll get that figured out soon too. And then also last bit of news is Sean Payton still won't name the starting QB, but we all probably think it's going to be Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, these guys are the pros. Sean Payton clearly knows what he's doing. Maybe he's just like this, this is how he does his thing. And maybe once Bo Nix gets it, he's going to be that much more excited. But it's like, I don't know. I'm excited for Bo Nix. I think the Broncos, I know they don't look great, and everyone is just like already calling them like basically the worst team in the league this year, them in Washington pretty much. But I just think that they could maybe put a little something together. Like,
yeah, I could see either one of those teams sneaking into playoffs. Like, I think if you're talking they're the worst teams, like, I don't know. I guess we'll see, but I could see. We don't know how the whole what's his name, the new quarterback for the Washington,
Jaden
Daniels.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be really good, and I don't think we really know what that's going to look like yet, but I don't know. I hate like the whole, putting a position on these guys on like, oh, they're going to win the AFC North or whatever it may be, because like people had last year, the Giants going into last year, they had them like ranked as winning the division, and then they had like this, massive collapse of a year. So you just never know.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if I'm going with as much of a hot take of them sneaking into playoffs, but I do think that they're not as bad. I think Bo Nix and the Broncos could be a little bit surprising personally. But all right, let's talk about our slips.
Sweet.
So I'll tell you my slip, and then Jordy will tell you guys his slip. But this is the 6-man I have for Prize Picks season-long NFL. And my first play is Marvin Harrison Jr. I like over 1,024.5 receiving yards. Next up, I got Jaxon Smith-Njigba over 65.5 receptions. Jonathan Taylor over 1,299.5 rushing and receiving yards. Will Levis over 24.5 season-long passing yards. Bryce Young over 24.5 passing yards. And then I got your boy CeeDee Lamb here at the end, over 1325.5 receiving yards on the season. Let's talk about your slip.
Yeah, so mine here, I'm going to be going, first of all, with Caleb Williams. I'm going to be taking Caleb Williams over 23.5 passing touchdowns on the year. I think he'll, get over this mark for sure. With all of the weapons he's got around him now, I think it makes sense. And then I've got for my next pick, I got DeRon Bland for over 2.5 interceptions on the year. This is way too low for him. And then I've got another Cowboy, my favorite Cowboy on the team right now, Ezekiel Elliott. I've got him for over. They actually bumped this line down. I'm trying to get Prize Picks. Prize Picks has been so awful for me. Just give me 1 sec. It's telling me to press and hold this button so they can confirm I'm not a robot. Because they updated this. I had it screenshotted in our thing, and then they actually bumped Zeke down, which I was stoked about. Yeah, so they got him now at I took him at 599.5, and now he's at 575.5. And I'm taking that for over. I think that's really low. I thought 599 was really low. So I'm going to be taking that for over for the whole year. He's never even come close to going under that. And I just don't understand the continual disrespect that Zeke is getting. But they're already saying that he's going to be splitting carries, and I still think he'll crush this line, no problem. And then next, I've got Dalton Kincaid for over 78.5 receptions on the year. I think that's pretty low with all the guys who left. I think he's going to be their number one guy. And then I'm taking Odunze for over 57.5 receptions on the year. I think that's just ridiculously low. And then this next one was very surprising to me to see. I'm taking Breece Hall for over 3.5 receiving touchdowns on the year. I think that's just insanely low for him. That's the 6 I've got.
Yeah, that Breece Hall receiving touchdowns line does seem really low. Great pass catcher, and every time he touches the ball, he could take it to the house. So, all right. Well, all right, let's break these down. So I'm going to break down my wide receivers first on this slip.
Cool.
And then I'll get into everything else because I got my notes set up here. So Marvin Harrison Jr., I like him to go over this. I did my research. I used Mike Clay's certified projections over at ESPN because he is the GOAT when it comes to projecting NFL. And so that was a nice little cheat sheet here to see for discrepancies on Prize Picks. So Marvin Harrison Jr., they've got this line set at 1,024.5 receiving yards. And just starting with Mike Clay, he's got him projected at 15 games. So he's even, there's a little bit of wiggle room there if he misses a couple games. But at 15 games, he has him projected for 1,120 yards, which isn't like huge. It's just about 100 over what we're getting on Prize Picks. But if we, what really sold me on it is if we take that, I'm just going to do the math real quick. Take the 1,000, well, he would need 1,025 to cash for us. We divide that by 15 games if Mike Clay is right about the games played, and that's 68 yards a game on average. So there might be a game here and there where he just has a bad game, but I think there's going to be a lot of games where he's well over 100 yards. So I fully expect him to clear this line personally. Best wide receiver prospect coming into the draft, goes to a perfect situation with a team that has underrated, solid offense, in my opinion, fast-paced offense. Things have been looking up since Jonathan Gannon took over. And, he's instantly the number one target. He's going to, I think that this line's just ridiculously low. So I'm going to be taking that for more. And then Jaxon Smith-Njigba will be the next one I break down. So I almost took his receiving yards, but I like the discrepancy with the receptions just a little bit more. So JSN last year, he was a little bit underwhelming for how excited everyone was for him. But we got a new coaching staff out in Seattle. We have Ryan Grubb out there calling plays, which we know loves loves 3 wide receiver sets and loves passing the ball. Another fast-paced offense. So I expect the Seahawks to be passing the ball more often this year. And I also think it's pretty, I think I agree with the consensus that he's probably already taken over the number 2 receiving job over Tyler Lockett. And we've got the sophomore year here for him where typically, high wide receiver prospects tend to break out and have a great second year, better than they did the first year. And even last year with our situation of him being a little bit underwhelming, he played more games than we're projecting here. He played 17 games last year, but went for 63 receptions. So even with the 15 games, if he's right about that, I think that's what he had him projected at. Yeah, 15 games. I just think that when you do the math, there is a reality where he could actually be the number 1 in Seattle. I'm not saying that that's likely, but it's also, there's not a 0% chance that he overtakes DK in targets. So I think, this puts us at just around, I think it's like 4.4 when I did the math, receptions a game. And I don't think that there's going to be many games when he has less than 4, but I could see some games where he's getting 7, 8 receptions, maybe even some games where he's double digits. So I think this is just way too low at 65.5. Again, Mike Clay has him projected at 76 on the year over a 15 game stretch. So I love this play. I'm going to be taking it for more. And then my last wide receiver play I'm going to cover is CeeDee Lamb over the 1,325.5 receiving yards. And this one's just kind of ridiculous to me. So Mike Clay has him projected for 15 games and 1,408 receiving yards, which I still think is even a little bit low. So we are still getting a discount compared to like the best projections in the game. but 1325.5. I don't know if that's because of the contract situation, but I think that's just way too low. If we take a look at CD last year, he actually went nuts. He went for 1,749 receiving yards with 135 receptions, and that's with a slow start to the year. Like last year, early on, they didn't really seem to have much of an identity on offense, and they ended the year as the most scoring offense in the league. But Jordy actually capitalized on that last year and went and got CeeDee Lamb when he was he hadn't broke out yet. But
I was looking at that trade the other day, and I was just like, I don't even know how I pulled that off, but
yeah, we still got to do wellness checks on Bobby, make sure he's not having PTSD from that. Yeah. But yeah, so he ends with 1749. They didn't bring in any other receivers, that are there. I mean, he's arguably the best in the game, and they, don't have. They're not built to be like some aggressive running team. I think that what was working for them when they got really pass heavy, I think that's what we're going to see all year personally. So I think he could have another 1,500 yard receiving year. So 1325.5 is just ridiculous. So my next play, I'm going to talk about Jonathan Taylor here. Let me just did this last time too. Okay. Just getting my notes updated. Forgive me. Okay, so Jonathan Taylor, I think that the reason this line's a little low is because people seem to be a little bit worried about injuries, which I understand, and they haven't seen him be that RB1 in a couple of years. But this is also he's just a few years removed from being the RB1 in fantasy. He can catch the ball. We know he has a great O-line, and now he's got a young quarterback with incredible upside who also can run the ball. So the RPO, like the run pass option, is just going to be so hard to predict. I believe their coach is Shane Steichen, and another fast pace, likes to get a lot of plays going. And so Mike Clay has him projected at 14 games for 1,180 rushing yards and 318 receiving yards. That puts us at 1498, I believe, if I did my math correct. Yeah. So Mike Clay has him projected for way more than what we've got here. And also just, again, the situation, I can't wait to see what I think Jonathan Taylor is going to look like his old self this year. So I had to jump on this. I think that line's just way too low. And then my last two plays are my quarterbacks here. Not my quarterbacks, but the quarterbacks that I selected. So let me get to my quarterback projections. Okay. So Will Levis, I really love this play. 3,424.5 receiving yards. So we need him to get 3,425 total to cash for us. Will Levis is kind of like, I'm personally on the side of I think this kid still has a lot of potential. He's got a monster arm. He is a grinder. The dude seems to really love the game of football, and he's got a totally different offense that he's playing in this year. So last year, when we look at Will Levis, he played 9 games and ended up during that time going for 1,808 yards. So he didn't get the starting job for a little while, and the offense was just kind of a mess. It wasn't kind of a mess. It just pretty much was a mess, but he's got Calvin Ridley out there. And Treylon Burks isn't that exciting, but it sounds like he's not, he's getting an opportunity with DeAndre Hopkins, dealing with that little injury that's going to keep him out for a few weeks. But it sounded like Treylon Burks might be impressing enough to keep the slot role once Hopkins is back. But my point is, Will Levis now has Brian Callahan as his head coach, who, was out in Cincinnati. So when you think about the Bengals and how that offense looked, very pass heavy, even their running backs are catching the ball a lot. They went and they got Tony Pollard, and they've got Tyjae Spears, who are both not your grinder type of backs. They're really good pass catchers, and he wants to utilize both of them. He said there's going to be plenty of snaps where they're both on the field. So I think even the touches to the running backs are going to benefit Will Levis on these passing yards. So you got Calvin Ridley, who Brian Callahan is talking about. He wants him to be the Jamar Chase, role on the offense. So when you've got someone like Brian Callahan coming in, I think that they're just doing everything they can to turn this into a very pass-heavy offense. And again, even I don't think there's going to be a ton of designed runs for these running backs. I think it's going to be a lot of pass catching and then, running the ball from there. So I love this line. It's super low, 34-24. I'm even a little bit higher on it than Mike Clay is. But if we take a look here, let me pull up Will Levis. So he's got him projected for 15 games, 3,813 yards. So Mike Clay already has him projected for just under 400 over what this is. But I don't know why Prize Picks has this at this line, because there's nothing as far as coaching, weapons, the offensive approach. There's nothing that suggests that he should be this low. And then my last play is Bryce Young, 24.5 passing yards. I like him to get over this. And I think that, again, Bryce Young, I'm not like a big fan of his or anything, but I am a big fan of his new coach and his new play caller. So Bryce Young is projected, according to Mike Clay, for 15 games for 3,525 yards. So we got another, 300 yardish discrepancy here. But when you take a look at what Dave Canales, the new coach out there, did in the past, I just want to talk a little bit about this. So Baker Mayfield, he was Baker Mayfield's coach last year. Baker Mayfield, over his entire career, his best year was 3,827 passing yards. The 2 years before he got to Tampa Bay last year, he went for 3,010 yards, 2,163 yards. And then he gets with Dave Canales and he pops off for 4,044 passing yards. And that was the most attempts he's ever taken and the most completions he's ever had. And if you don't think that was just Dave Canales, let's talk about Geno Smith for a minute. Geno was in the same situation, not really doing much with his career. And then Dave Canales not Canales. Yeah, it was Canales. Was out there in Seattle, and he did the same thing for Geno's career, turned things around. And then Geno had that breakout year of crazy, like 572 attempts, 399 completions, and went for 4,200 yards. Well, that's who is in Carolina now. And so I think that this is going to be a really great match. Like Canales just has a way of turning things around for quarterbacks. So I think this is Bryce Young's turn. So I'm much more closer to where Mike Clay has this projected at that 3,800. I wouldn't be surprised if he does knock on the door of 4,000 yards. And so, yeah, that wraps up my plays. I'm definitely going to be taking Bryce Young for more as well. And we're going to just take a real quick break, and then Jordy will break into his picks.
Enjoy sports betting and daily fantasy? Well, Daily Grind is here to help you beat the books. They make premium DFS tools that do all the work for you, comparing lines across just about every platform, looking for discrepancies for you to take advantage of. Start off your research with their DFS Optimizer, a tool that finds all the best plays and rates them with their odds to hit indicator. Or if you'd rather have them make your entire slip for you, they have you covered with their AI slip generator. They'll even notify you when a new slip is available. Go to dgfantasy.com and use code BACKDOOR. They will give you 25% off your first subscription all the way up to a year if you want. That's dgfantasy.com, code BACKDOOR.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get right into my picks here. Starting off for me, I'm going to be talking about DeRon Bland. He's the cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys. This dude's really kind of popped off in the last 2 years. He was just like a third-string defensive back in his rookie year, and the injuries plagued that defensive line and that the DBs, like the backfield for them. So he had to end up coming in, and he's never lost a starting job ever since. His rookie year, he came in and got 5 interceptions, which was really good for him in his rookie year. He played all 17 games there, so that was really good. And then last year, he picked right back up. He got the starting position. He just maintained it. He had 69 tackles, and he had 9 interceptions for 5 pick sixes. He actually led the league in pick sixes. So 2.5 interceptions on the year is just ridiculous to me. I think he'll definitely get that. The dude just keeps getting better and better, and there's so much talk about him in training camp just being totally a lockdown corner. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like with him and Diggs this year. So yeah, I think people are kind of sleeping on the Cowboys, ever since we lost our defensive coordinator. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think that 2.5 is just really low though, so we're going to be taking that for more. And then next, I got Ezekiel Elliott here. This one is just crazy. I can't even believe this is this low. I mean, he's never even last year when he only had 184 touches, that's the lowest amount of touches he's ever had in his career, and he still had 642 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, and he even had 51 receptions. That was almost a career high for him in receptions. So the dude is, obviously a great pass catcher, but the dude can run the ball like no other still. So even if we get him to that 180 touch mark, which I think he'll be around 180 to 200 if we're lucky, I think he'll still crush this line, no problem. He's going to a way better offensive line this year. I don't know if you guys have seen the film of Tyler Guyton, the new offensive monster we have on our line for the Cowboys, but that dude is looking insane. So I think Zeke will be able to overpass this 275 line, no problem. So I'm going to be taking that one for over. And then my next one here, let's just keep it rolling. Let's see. So I've got next on my list, I got Caleb Williams. This one's just kind of like a guessing game, right? Like we don't really know, but I think this is just too low. The dude is, obviously college is way different, but he's crushed this line every single year he played in college. He's coming into the big leagues now, but he looks like the truth. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the dude's personality. I'm not really a fan of the guy in any sense, but I do think he'll easily hit this 23 or this 24 line for us. Mike Clay's actually got him projected at 23 touchdowns on the year. We'll see. I mean, this was before any film or anything has come out about him, in preseason or anything. But yeah, I think that 23 is looking pretty easily doable for him right now, especially with the weapons he's got around him. The connection with Odunze is looking insane already. So I just think that connection is going to be special, and I think Odunze is going to be someone who's going to be in, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but I could see him being up to the 7 to 10 touchdown range. Like when you just look at how easy it looks for them to just get that connection going. So,
oh yeah, and he's got so many weapons beyond Odunze too.
Oh yeah, Keenan Allen's a red zone machine, So DJ
Moore too. It's dude's got all the weapons to get those touchdowns.
Yeah, and you see like they're throwing DeAndre Swift the ball a ton already in preseason, and he's getting screen passes. So that's only gonna further the passing touchdown thing for us. So 23.5 seems pretty easy. So I think he'll easily get 24 for us. Next up on my list, I got Dalton Kincaid. This one's a little bit interesting. I think he's going to crush this line. We've only had one season of Kincaid, and it was a great year. I mean, he didn't have very many touchdowns, but he had 73 receptions, and that was with, the whole Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, in my opinion, is like one of the biggest divas when it comes to...
So toxic, man.
Yeah, he wants like the ball in his hands all the time. You look at like as soon as someone gets a touchdown and he's over pulling CJ Stroud to the side, like talking him up on what they want to do. And I don't know. I think Stephon Diggs leaving that team, Buffalo, is going to be a huge weight lifted off their shoulders. And I think Dalton Kincaid is going to be in that dang near like 100 reception range. I really think that he's going to be like their number one target.
Absolutely. Cause they were talking, not to cut you off, but they were talking all, Curtis Samuel and just, I forget the rookie they just brought in as well, but there's not any clear number one out there, and Curtis Samuel is dealing with the hamstring, I believe, right now, and so I think it's just going to be all Kincaid.
Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir look decent, but I just think like when you look at what Kincaid was able to like demand last year and how good he looked with every single target, he averaged 9.2 yards per touch, which is just nuts.
And how many receptions did you say he had last year?
73.
Yeah, and similar to CD, like his production really didn't ramp up until like mid-season. Yeah, So I think
because at first they had the whole like Austin Knox thing going on. So, and then he won the job over. But yeah, I think he's going to easily go over this line. 78.5, going to be taking that for more. And then to keep it going, we're going to be talking about Rome Odunze. this kid looks very exciting. 6'3", big body receiver, 220 pounds. The dude just looks like, unbelievable. Already, he has a preseason game with what did he do in that first preseason game? He had 3 targets for 45 yards. They even got him involved in the rushing game. He had a carry for 16 yards. So the dude just looks
freak.
Yeah, it's just a Swiss Army knife. Like, you love seeing those types of players, like, the DK Metcalf type players where they can just do it all. They're just big body guys and they're super athletic. So it looks like the Chicago Bears got something going here. It looks like they could be a fun team. I could see them making a playoff run for sure. But Rome Odunze, 57.5 receptions just seems so low. I feel like he's going to get fed a majority of the targets. I like the receptions over the touchdowns. I think his touchdowns were set at 5.5, which still seems low. Might have been a little higher than that, but you got guys like Keenan Allen who are red zone dominant players. So I just like the idea of Rome Odunze getting, a lot of the bulk work throughout the season, especially being the young guy too. I mean, you still got DJ Moore and people like that, but I think Rome Odunze, it looks like he could easily get over this 57.5 line. So, I think Rome Odunze is probably my biggest dart throw on the board that I have so far, because this Breece Hall one just seems like a free play to me. 3.5 receiving touchdowns. As bad as the quarterback play was last year, he still got 4. And he had plenty of red zone opportunities. He could have gotten 8 had, things gone his way. But the quarterback play was just so awful that I think they're going to it's going to look better. It's 100% going to look better. I'm 100% a believer that Rodgers is going to make this guy look even better in the passing game. Last year, with as bad as the quarterback play was, he almost had 600 receiving yards. He averaged 7.8 yards per catch, and he had 4 receiving touchdowns. So he got the line done last year just by 1, but I think he'll be in that 6 range, honestly. Like, you look at someone like Bijan Robinson, with as bad as they were, he was able to get 6 receiving touchdowns. I think Breece Hall will easily get, 5 or 6 receiving touchdowns at least. So, I think the 3.5 is pretty easy, and that's going to do it for me. I kind of steamed through mine, but a lot of mine are just pretty, in my opinion, easy to catch lines out there.
Yeah, man, it's going to be fun. I'm so happy we're so close to football.
Yeah.
We're ready for it. That's going to wrap everything up, guys. And we don't really have too much more to talk about as far as I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not much more to go off of, right? Like, the season's right around the corner. Preseason's been a lot of fun. We're seeing a lot of different things go on, but I think we're all just waiting for that, September 5th. I mean, God, we're so close.
I know. I was kind of doing my outro thing a little bit, and I just started daydreaming there about football so close. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. We have a fantasy football podcast, and we also do DFS picks. If you guys don't mind, if you've enjoyed the content, hit us with a like, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Good luck, guys.